You only live one life, that's right. All right, now we are starting on the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court gets its authority from Article 3 of the Constitution. Article 1 is Congress. Article 2 is the President. Article 3, the Supreme Court. And again, please don't write this stuff down. It's in the Constitution, really. I'm just pulling it right from the Constitution. It's important to remember. Don't waste your time writing it down. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. There you go. That's the authority. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior. Now that hasn't been well defined. What constitutes bad behavior for a judge? Well, we found out earlier in the case of Samuel Chase, bias in selecting jurors constitutes bad behavior, right? What else might? Well, we'll find out as this goes along. And shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. Then this is just section 2, which defines the court's jurisdiction, that's about it. Yeah, it defines the court's jurisdiction. Affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and counsels to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be a party, to controversies between two or more states, between a state and citizens of another state, between citizens of different states, etc., etc. I'm not going to read that all to you, but it might be fair game for a multiple answer question on a certain test that you're taking starting on May 5th at 10:46 a.m. Not you, summer class. I'm trying to play to both audiences here, Jill.
Just leave out everything that's not important.
If you know how to do that, I'd be willing to send you the video to edit. So, all cases, again, affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and counsels, those in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. In all other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction. Now, what does appellate jurisdiction mean? Anybody know right off the bat?
No.
Once removed, or it goes to the lower courts first.
Good. Once removed, it goes to the lower courts first, so it might start in a circuit court. They can appeal up to an appellate court if they're not satisfied. Whatever party is suing is not satisfied with the appellate court's decision. They can appeal up to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court is swamped, literally, with cases, so they get the power to pick and choose which cases they hear. Yes?
So that's why with a lot of the Supreme Court cases, we have a state versus something.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So they get the power to pick and choose. They don't have to hear anything. Now, there are these cases where they have original jurisdiction, so like Ohio versus Kentucky would go right to the Supreme Court and wouldn't go to an appellate court or anything like that. It would go right there if the court chose to hear it in the first place. All right, the trial of all crimes except in cases of impeachment shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crime shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such a place or places as the Congress may by law address or have directed. Read. Read, Parker, read. It's right there on the screen. May by law have directed. So we have the right to a jury trial in the place where we committed the crime. treason against the United States.
Is this all from the Constitution?
Yeah, pretty much all of it. Shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses. It gets a little spicier as we go along, but this beginning part is just from the Constitution. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act or on confession in open court. So, Miss Jansen, for instance, she decides she wants to get Uncle Sam for everything she was made to pay in taxes this last fiscal year. She says, I didn't have $3,000 and Uncle Sam took that away, and now I'm living on the streets and I don't have a penny to my name and I got to beg for food. Forget you, Uncle Sam. So she decides that she's going to give the North Koreans the secret to our nuclear submarines. I don't know how she would get access to this information. Miss Jansen is not a traitor. I'm just saying that for the 27 intelligence agencies that listen in on YouTube and every other platform known to man. So she somehow makes her way into the Department of Defense. This homeless lady who probably hasn't had a shower in 3 weeks and steals the blueprints to the nuclear submarines, makes her way to North Korea and says, Kim Jong-un, I am but your humble servant. Here are these blueprints. Miss Jansen has just committed treason against the United States. That is an example of treason. Yes.
Because of taxes?
Just because she got taken to the mill on her taxes. Yes.
Come on, Jansen.
You would never do that, I know that. Treason, Mr. Andrews, yes.
So it's that last part, the giving them aided comfort, that's like the main act that would most likely be like called for treason?
Oh, no. So say if Miss Jansen again decided to go to Russia and fight in the Russian army in a war against the United States, that would also be an act of treason. And if we caught Miss Jansen, she would be tried as a traitor. Yes.
What's the punishment for that?
Oh, that's a good one. Give me a minute. We're going to get there. So you can't be convicted of treason unless 2 people, so say I saw Miss Jansen and Kaylee saw Miss Jansen, give Kim Jong-un the blueprints to our nuclear submarines. All right, that's enough, according to the courts of the United States. Kaylee and me. We go into court, we say, yes, that's the lady who did it. That'd be enough to get her convicted as a traitor. Or if Miss Jansen just has a sudden pang of conscience and starts bawling in open court and saying, yes, I fought with the Russians. I'm sorry. I throw myself upon the mercy of the court. If there's an open confession like that, okay, then she's convicted as a traitor again. Now, the punishment for treason, Vanessa, could be anything from a prison sentence to a firing squad. It just depends upon the severity of what you did. Now, if I had to guess, just guess, that's all I'm doing, because I don't know. Because the amount of treason cases we've tried, I could count on one hand. It doesn't really happen. If I had to guess, Ms. Jansen's defection to the Russian army would probably carry a prison sentence. Giving nuclear submarine plans to North Koreans would probably get her a firing squad. Yeah, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's pretty big treason.
Yeah.
When that happens, we'll hold you to it.
When that happens, you'll hold me to it.
Yep, when Janet does that, we'll.
Jan's in, and she's sitting right there.
Oh, here it
Good luck.
And it's never going to happen because she's a good, loyal American. I do know that.
But now he starts fighting.
I do know that. But it's up to Congress to declare the punishment for treason. No attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Okay, this just means Ashley's children will have a good life in the United States and won't be tainted by the stain of their mother's misdeeds. The fact that she committed treason won't mean that they won't be able to inherit her estate, won't be able to, get a job, anything like that. This is a throwback from the days of Parliament when a king might have declared, Ashley, do you mind me using you as a guinea pig? Okay. When Ashley was the Duchess of Buckingham, and she conspired against the king, right? The king would declare Ashley, Duchess of Buckingham, to be a traitor. Her estates would be reverted to the crown. She would be left without a penny and turned out onto the streets. And Ashley's children would be the sons and daughters of a traitor, and they would not get a chance to inherit their mother's title or their mother's properties or estates. So the king and the traitor, the act of treason would, in effect, wipe the family out. They'd have nothing for generations and generations. So we didn't want to do that in America. So if somebody commits treason, it only affects the person committing the act, not any, and it's done when that person's when that person has died. And that's it.
Oh, at least it's done, right?
Yeah. We don't hold the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren responsible for what grandma did. Yeah. And here is an example of treason. This lady, Iva Taguri Diakino, you might have heard of in a history class, it's called Tokyo Rose. She was convicted in 1949, pardoned in 1977 by Gerald Ford, who was very liberal with the pardons, pardoned Nixon as well. So Iva Takuri Diakino visited Japan. She got stuck there when the war began. I'm just giving you the Cliff's Notes version of this. She needed to make a living. She was an American citizen, had to make a living. Transportation got cut off between Japan and the United States, obviously, after Pearl Harbor. So she got a job as a DJ for Radio Tokyo during World War II, where she either played music punctuated by banter that was either playfully entertaining or a deliberate attempt to undermine morale of U.S. troops. So what this means, what I've taken it to mean anyway, is she made the soldiers homesick. And this was an act of treason. Yes?
She's in jail, or she was in jail
She spent a long time in jail, yes.
the rest of her life.
No, she was from Chicago. She didn't die too terribly long ago. Yeah.
So she got back to the States and then went to jail?
And then, yeah, she was tried and went to jail.
Because she made...
Well, there's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it. Yeah. Yeah, so the U.S. Army, when she got back, said her program never hurt the morale of troops. It might have actually helped it, because they could maybe remember home and think of home. FBI, yeah, the program she ran might have improved spirits of the troops, but when she came home, there was a great deal of public outcry. Now, you have to remember the end of World War II. there were very hard feelings against the Japanese, against the Germans. People, being people, had a hard time distinguishing between that German and the Germans that lived in Germany, that Japanese person and the Japanese person who lived in Japan. So that Japanese person who might have been your next door neighbor for 30 plus years, well, he's responsible for the death of my brother. It's just transference. You know, people are like that. They get funny in wartime, and it's just the way of it. So soldiers reported memories of her making damning statements. She was tried for treason. She was found guilty on one count of speaking into a microphone concerning the loss of ships. So she might have gotten on Radio Tokyo and said the USS Jonathan Parker sunk today off the coast of Tokyo. Something like that. Given positions and the loss of American ships to
Japan, like, wasn't
Japanese.
supposed to know that?
I don't know that Japan wasn't supposed to know that, or Japan wouldn't have known that. But this whole thing was just a big sort of wartime misunderstanding and unfortunate. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. It was just an unfortunate example in time. Yeah, the lady was the wrong race in the wrong country at the wrong time. And we've seen how that has been handled by the American population at times throughout our history. So she served 6 years of a 10-year sentence she got for treason. And the really sad thing is it might not even have been her that had done it. Tokyo Rose might not have been referring to her, but there were a bunch of English-speaking women on Japanese radio. So she very well could have been innocent of all of it. Just an unfortunate chapter in our history. And we'll leave Tokyo Rose at that.